Welcome to Talk to Me. I'm your host, Brenda Warren, the solutionist. I see things other people often miss. I talk to authors, entrepreneurs, and veterans. I help them turn their mess or their mission into a message for the masses. And I am thrilled today to have a very special returning guest, Mr. Adam G. Fleming. He is an author, a coach's coach, a mentor, and I call him friend. He has been gracious enough to come on talk to me several times in the midst of social unrest to talk about his book, his courses, and how he helps other coaches become super coaches. But today we're going to focus on Adam's books and what he has going on currently. Adam, I'm so excited to have you here for the show. But for those of you that don't know, I want to tell you a little bit about Adam. Adam, after dabbling in bass guitar, sculpting in stone, drawing and painting, theater, he decided writing books was the thing he liked best. Like Tigger discovering the extract of malt in Winnie the Pooh, Adam was hooked. He was inspired by the late Rich Foss, an author of Jonas and Sally. Mr. Foss was one of Adam's dad's friends that he knew from childhood, and he was the first author that Adam personally knew. Adam's writing style ranges from silly and absurd to completely serious, sometimes in the same paragraph, y'all. He lists Mark Twain, John Irving, Barbara Kingsolver among many of the great literary influences. He prefers to read literary fiction. Adam's writing is informed by a great deal of international travel. He's been from the Congo to Denmark, from Thailand to Egypt. He's visited 20 countries and spent at least 3 months in 4 different nations outside of the US. He currently lives in Goshen, Indiana with his wonderful wife, Megan, and 4 children. Once again, Adam, welcome to Talk to Me. How are you doing today?
Oh, Brenda, I'm doing great. And I always love talking to you. So I like the title of your show. I mean, that's what we're gonna do. Talk to you.
Yeah, we're going to talk to, as a lot of us refer to him, the awesome guy.
Uh,
Adam, there's so
Full
many things.
disclosure, I made that up.
Yeah. And you know what? But that's what we do. I made up the solutionist. So we get to
Yeah.
decide what we're called and how people refer to us. And that's the fun of being who we are. We can decide who we are and how we show up in the world today. And I love the way you show up because you do show up awesomely. From the time when you showed up in my life and without even knowing it, changed the way I saw and the way I show up daily. The way you support other business owners on a weekly call where they get together and talk about ways to improve their businesses. There's just so many things you do individually and for small businesses. So those are all great things. But today we're going to talk about the books. You've written 14, maybe 15 books. You've
Yeah.
published 10. You've co-authored 3 with a
Hmm.
gentleman that you brag a lot about. And
Yeah.
let's start there. Tell me about your co-author, and then we'll talk about the books you've written yourself.
Yeah. I love working with Justin Fike. We were together at a conference in Thailand some years back, and we're sitting having coffee early in the morning, watching the sun come up over the bay. Just beautiful beach, and we knew some people from Texas who were there, and we started just kind of riffing on what's it like for the first time somebody from Texas goes to Thailand. Because Texas kind of has its own culture, right? So
Mhm.
we started riffing on the cowboy theme and came up with a character, and then we just looked at each other like, we got to write this. So that's the Stetson Jeff series, Beat Down in Bangkok, Mayhem in Marrakesh, and Pandemonium in Paradise, where this cowboy, it's kind of a cross between Chuck Norris and Forrest Gump.
That sounds
And so
interesting.
if that sounds interesting, you want to look up the books that I've done with Justin. But Justin is a great author in his own right. He has a master's degree from Oxford in creative writing, and he's had a book deal with Fallbrandt Press, where he publishes fantasy fiction novels. So he's doing a lot of his own stuff, and sometimes we don't feel like we have a lot of time to work on our joint projects, but that's okay. We're both in it for the long haul. So we'll get back to publishing more stuff together.
One of the things I know about you is you're all about collaboration. So are there any other authors that you plan to collaborate with anytime in the near future?
Well, actually, that's interesting. There is someone that you and I both know, but I'm not sure if it's public yet that I'm collaborating with that person. So yes, I do have recently agreed to a collaboration deal with somebody else, but I don't know if we're releasing that. So I'm not going to say who it is.
That's okay, but we'll keep our eyes and ears open for that. You'll have to come back when it is public and tell us all about it.
Well, we'll bring the co-author then.
Yeah, we'll have a little, three-way conversation about the book and what y'all are doing, which would be pretty awesome. Adam, tell me about the very first book that you wrote solo. What was that?
Sure. I've got it right here. It's called White Buffalo Gold.
Okay.
So when I was dabbling around in theater, I did some community theater projects locally here. Obviously, I'm not in New York City or whatever, or LA, but just doing community theater in the Midwest. It's pretty amateur, but I wanted to write something that was reflecting on my very early adult years when I was 19 years old and worked in a nursing home in a small town in Iowa, really small town, like 1,000 people. I was taking care of some very interesting folks and at that time. And so 20 years had gone by and I wanted to kind of debrief myself on that experience of taking care of folks in their final years, and to think again about what it's like to come from a small town in the Midwest. And many of these Midwestern towns are dying. So I created some characters who were graduating high school in a really small town and thinking about what they're going to do with their lives, and kind of counterpoint with one of the characters working in nursing home with people who are sort of at end of life. So people beginning their adult lives and people kind of at the end of life. I wrote a play and found a local community theater that was willing to produce it. So that was exciting. And I got to be the director as well. And in that process, I thought, well, I ought to make this a novel too. So I took the play and expanded it out into a novel with 5 times the material. And that's how we came up with White Buffalo Gold. So this came out in 2012, and I still think it's really good work. So I'm still proud of it 9 years later.
And I've seen several of your books, and I know you make some amazing characters, but you also write poetry.
I do, yeah, and that's one of my more recent books. And I thought, I've got a couple of. So here's this one. This is called Vortex Street. This is.
Bam.
Oh, you've got a copy too.
Look at that.
Yeah. So I thought, well, these are poems from, this photograph here on the cover. And then if you wrap it around to the back, you can see this fisherman casting a net in the surf. And I took this picture myself in Thailand. So this is travel poems, things that oftentimes in my journal when I was traveling, I would come up with stuff and that kind of thing at various conferences, or and some short, really short, like 2-page fiction stories as well, little short stories too. So I'm going to read a couple if that's okay, Brenda.
Yeah, that would be great. I love poetry.
Yeah, so this one is called Fish and Stars. There are many fish but one ocean. They may swim at different depths, but they share one country. There are many stars, but one sky. They're all so far away we may never reach them, but they share one country. There are many children whose father left long ago. They may not know where they come from, but one day, like fish and stars, they will gather in one country. Then they will no longer know what it means to be fatherless.
And I'm glad you read that one, because that was the one I actually had turned to. I'm 2 for 2 now. I just recently had another poet on, and he read the poem. So when you did that, I went, well, I'm getting good at this. Okay, what else are you going to share with us?
Well, I'm going to share one more, and this one is kind of about freedom, but it's about, which is good for, we're a couple days past July 4th, but this is really more about spiritual freedom, I guess. But That's it, it's all part of it, right? And this one is called Good Luck. If you could take a whole rainbow and stuff it back through the prism from which it came, I guess you'd manufacture light. Good luck with that. If you could take a free man and shove him back through the prison from which he came, I guess you'd manufacture innocence. Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Good luck with that. I like
Good
that.
luck with that. So I was just thinking about, innocence and guilt and freedom and prison and all that kind of stuff. So that's Vortex Street. That's this is my newest, one of my newest books that just came out last month. So excited about that.
And the thing that I love about your writing is that there are so many genres of what you do, because you build great characters. You have cowboys, and then you have coming of age stories, and then you have the fantasy stories. You also have self-help. And I was like, the motivational listening.
Yep, there it is.
Okay, so what prompted you to do that one? With all the characters you create, now we have a creative ideas for effective leaders. I guess that's part of your business coaching.
Right.
That you did that. Could you tell me about that one?
Well, this one was, I had seen a lot of books out there about how to be a coach. And they're all very linear and kind of structured in like the typical business book format of like, do this, then do this, then do this, and that kind of thing. And I had been blogging for a while. I don't blog a lot these days, but I had been blogging pretty consistently for several years. And then when I got an opportunity to speak to a guy who ran a publishing company, I just kind of stumbled into a publishing deal, to be honest with you. A lot of people ask me, well, how on earth did you do that? I don't know. It's luck. But I was talking to this guy and I said, hey, I have an idea for a book, and it's about coaching or about excellent listening, but not from a linear perspective, but more like little vignettes and almost like little meditative kind of short stories. And it's really just a whole bunch of stuff from my blogs. And then he said, yeah, let's do it. Let's publish that. And then, we went through editing process. So whatever's probably still way buried in my blog somewhere, it has been refined, and, we put some pictures to it and whatever. And so then, we just have a really quite a variety of little ways of thinking about how to be a better listener. I guess that's what I would say.
I think that what I liked about it was that it was easy to read, and you had a lot of good quotes in there. Like I said, the pictures. It was not your traditional type of business book, so that's why I enjoyed it. But it goes back to the type of writer that you are. You engage people and you draw them into whatever it is that you're writing about. Now, when you look back on all the different things that you've written, and I can tell you, as someone that writes myself, I can't really pick a favorite story, but do you have a favorite writing that you really enjoyed? Like one book that you said, if I could only pick one, is there one, or is it the current one that you're writing?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, obviously when the stuff that you're currently working on, you've got to be engaged in enough and excited enough about to finish it. And the second way to answer that question would be to say that I've got a really big project I've been working on for years and years and years. And it's kind of funny because what I'm doing is a rock band where this guy is raised in a sort of weird sort of religious cult and becomes a rock star, a drummer in a band. And I wanted some kind of fantasy story that another character in the band would get excited about, and then they would end up writing songs about this fantasy story, this really obscure kind of vanity publishing book from the 80s that some So I'm making up a character who wrote a book, and I'm making up his book, right? And so also that it can be inside this other story. And I came up with this idea for Satchel Pong and the Great Migration. And I ended up and I wrote like 80% of that book in 2016, simply as backdrop for the other one. I wasn't even intending to publish it. And then 2 years later, I came back and said, wow, this is like 85% done. Why don't I just finish this thing and put it out as a book itself? And so that's how I ended up with Satchel Pong and the Great Migration. But I left some bits of the story hanging, right? So I had to wrap those bits of the story up. So I ended up with Satchel Pong and the Search for Emil Ennis.
Okay.
And then Antoinette Jo and the Sky Dwellers, which is, by the way, is such a beautiful cover. I'm so excited.
I can really say now there's something really significant about that beautiful cover. You want to share that with the audience, Adam? Because I know you're proud about that.
Yeah. I mean, my sister designed all of these. So shout out to Bethany Keener. She just did a great job, on Satchel Pong and the Great Migration and all three of these books in this series. And right now I have the fourth book ready to go, and I'm just waiting for her to finish book 4 cover, and I'm editing book 5, and then that's going to be done. And then I can go back to that other thing that I'm really excited about that's been sitting on the shelf for a while. So I've got lots of books in progress that I'm excited about. And I also believe that the stuff that I've done with Justin, the Stetson Jeff stuff is really good too. So
now I want to stick a pin right here before we go further on into your books, because I want to ask, does Bethany only design covers for you? Is that just one of those sister brother things, or is that her profession?
Yeah, that's a sister brother thing. She did get a degree in graphic design, and she does a great job, but she has a job running a foundation, and she's a mom, and so I don't think she's out there looking for lots of book cover design. But I suppose if somebody got in touch with me and said, hey, does your sister have time? First thing I'd say is, I don't know. Is she caught up on the project she's doing for me? Because I'm not going to pass you on unless my stuff's getting done.
Look, I ask that because oftentimes when it's about siblings, you want to keep a close hold, and it's all about us, and you don't want to really share that with other people. But I don't mind. Out because your sister has some mad skills, and it's really cool that y'all have that connection, that she can be a part of something that is such a passion for you and make your passion come to life visually. So I wanted to give Bethany her props, because that book, when I first saw it, I thought, wow, who did this? It's amazing.
Yeah, she's really good at, and let's call a spade. I mean, it's a huge gift, because book cover design is not cheap. And I don't have money to throw around for top end, book cover designs, because you got to be selling thousands and thousands of copies to ever get your money back on that stuff. So it's very challenging, but I'm really pleased to have her doing that.
You're blessed to have a sister that has mad skills. So that's really cool. I'm gonna have to have a conversation with my brothers, because they can't draw stick people. So I'm gonna have to go back and tell them they need to up their game. Okay.
Well, maybe they can do something else for you. Come fix my toilet.
Now that they can do, they have really good construction skills. My one brother's a master welder, and the other one does asbestos abatement, and they both can do construction. So I guess, they're pretty cool then, huh?
I mean, if they can fix a toilet, that's probably worth as much as a book cover.
Yeah,
I know how much we've spent on plumbers here.
Okay, Junior and Bruce, I'll give y'all props for that.
Props to your brothers.
Brothers. They're pains in the butts, but I still love them. Yeah, shout out to Junior and Bruce. Y'all the men. Okay, back to your books. But again, you have other books that you've done in between there. Was there a genre that I missed? Well, let's see, we got poetry, we got mad characters, we got science fiction, we got fantasy, we have the business help. Are there any like self-help books, journals, cartoons? What? I know you got something.
Yeah. Well, I do have another book called How to Make a Positive Cultural Impact.
Okay.
And I don't have a paperback copy of that, because I actually haven't put it out in paperback yet. So it's only available as an ebook. And that's basically kind of taking some ideas from various research and then from watching coaching clients over the years figure out what it is that they need to do to be more effective. And being more effective isn't about, to me anyway, isn't about just making more money, although that's nice. But it's about freeing up time so that you can do the things that it takes to make positive impact on the culture around you, and leave a legacy. So the book is kind of designed to help people think through, how can I be more efficient? Some of those types of things, the sort of work-life balance kind of stuff that we all deal with, but for a greater purpose, which is what are the things that I need to do to be able to be more creative and more empathetic. And those are the things that if we're constantly working at our creativity and our empathy, those are things that impact culture. So
now I know you have a program coming up in September. If someone wanted to get in touch with you regarding your books, your programs you have coming up, where would they reach out to you at, Adam?
I think the easiest way is to send me an email, which is adam.fleming with one M, .lifecoach@gmail.com. And just tell me what you're interested in. But yeah, the program that we're doing. So my main source of income is not my books, surprisingly enough, because I've got like 10 of them now. You'd think that I'd be selling millions of copies already.
It's coming.
It's coming. It is. That's a funny story. I was networking with this guy and I said, you know how many copies of this book I've sold? And he said, I'm going to guess more than 0 and less than Stephen King. And I was like, that's a pretty good guess. So unless you're Stephen King or J.K. Rowling, it's tough to make that your living. But it's doable. It's certainly doable.
It's definitely doable.
So the program, the main source of income for me is teaching people coaching skills. As you saw with the art of motivational listening, like that's something that I've been doing since 2007, doing personal coaching, or you could call it executive coaching. You could call it transformational leadership coaching. Take whatever adjective you want. Besides, I guess I wouldn't say I do health and fitness coaching, but I have talked to some of my clients about their diets, and their exercise plans, and just be an accountability. It's not about bringing a particular expertise. I mean, we can all Google fitness programs online, right? And find our own. Who are we going to be accountable to? That's the trick, right? So whatever the adjective is in front of coaching, I can kind of do it. And have been doing it for a long time. So now what we do is we teach people those same skills. So it's not a marketing training program, right? It's not teaching people how to sell coaching, but what do you do in the coaching session once you have that customer? Because well, here's an interesting story. My sister's husband, who is executive director of an organization with 300 employees, told me the other day, we're hanging out July 4th. He said, I might let my coach go. I've heard all his stories. And I said, coaching's not about telling you all their stories. It's about drawing your story out of you, right? And he goes, yeah, I know. So here's the thing. If you're coaching and you think that you're going to have a long-term client by telling your stories, I got news for you. It doesn't take long for somebody to hear all your stories. It's about guiding them through their story. And you'll have clients like much, much longer if you're able to listen and draw out of them instead of trying to always put in. You've only got so much you can put in. I can only talk about my books so long.
Yeah. But we've talked about that because nowadays when everybody is calling themselves a coach of some kind, there are a lot of people that are making missteps. And I believe your training is going to help people be more informed and become better coaches. That's why I know you to be the coach's coach. And so if anybody's interested in getting some real training and becoming a real coach, Adam's program is one I would highly recommend and suggest you take a look at. Adam.
And we don't mess around with a weekend program and tell you you're a coach. This takes 5 months. It's a serious professional training course. Yeah.
Yes, and I know that to be true. Adam,
Yeah.
Right now, how many books do you have on your plate that you're working on right now?
Oh man, yeah. Back to the books. That's good. I have the project about the drummer.
Mm-hmm.
That might end up being 3 or 4 books. I'm not sure how I'm going to break it down. Then I have 2 Stetson Jeff books that are drafted and just need to be published. And so that's, let's say, 5. And then I've got 2 more in the Satchel Pong series, which are almost done. So that's 7. So I would say, somewhere between 5 and 8 books that I'm working on or have, kind of sitting in my laptop waiting to get edited or whatever. So
everybody's not like you, Adam. They don't write in your sleep. But for those other people that would like to become a writer, what advice would you give them?
Oh man. First of all, don't do what I'm doing now and have 7 projects open at the same time. Pick a story that you're going to write and focus on that and only write that one book. Okay. And then throw it away. No, I'm kidding. Well, it has been said that you learn to write a novel by writing a novel. So there's no other way to, you can go to a class or you can do whatever you want, but you have to write and edit a novel. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, now I know how this process works for me. And that's a big part of it. Each person kind of develops their own, style and their own habits, methods of working. Do you need to get up at 5 a.m. or do you need to be writing at 11 p.m.? I don't know. I can't tell you. That's a personal, kind of preference, and when's your energy high and when's your focus high. And there've been a lot of writers. John Irving's one of them, I think, was writing at 5 o'clock in the morning and working as a school teacher and wrestling coach, during the day until his 4th or 5th book hit.
Wow.
And he was doing it at 5 in the morning because, that's before the family's up and he could really focus. I might have some of the details on that wrong, but I do know that there's lots of people, if you want to write a book, you're doing it alongside of some other kind of job that pays your bills. The second piece of advice, don't expect it to pay your bills right away. So, and don't throw it away. Go ahead and publish it. Self-publish it if you have to, or query for agents if you want to. Don't expect the agents to buy it, but you can try. And, you might be one of those folks that catches lightning in a bottle, but it's not super likely. So be prepared to publish it yourself and buy a few copies and see what happens. And I think there's Brenda, there's kind of two kinds of people. One who just say, I have one story idea. I just want to do that. I don't know if I'll ever write a book again. And then there's the kind who like me, who's going to, eventually I want to have 25 books. That's my life goal right now. So I got 15 to go. Of course, I got 7 in process. So
you're almost there.
I'm 2/3 of the way there anyway. Yeah. It's happening and it will happen. That 25, I'll get there. And that might be the point at which I have a big enough back catalog to start, focusing on that as a career. But I have to fit it in the cracks. And let's see, what other advice would I give people? Don't worry about whether or not people will like it.
Yeah.
Most people will never even look at it. Look at the world. There's true. 7 billion people. You only need, to make good money on a book, you only need 10,000 people to buy it. That's not most of the world.
Yeah.
That's a very, very, very small fraction of people in the world who could buy your book, and just getting it sold isn't everything. I mean, if they don't read it, then it doesn't really matter if they bought it, because they're not likely to give a review, pass it to a friend. You're not building an audience if they buy it but don't read it. So Another thing that a lot of bloggers say, and I would agree with, is don't worry about whether or not your friends and family like it, because they're not your audience. Brenda, I don't know if your friends and family watch this show or if you have an audience that's, different from
Some of
that.
them do, some of them don't.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how it is with my books. Some of my family have read some of my books and liked them. And then, my aunt came along the other day and she picked up Satchel Pong and read the first couple pages and said, I just don't really care for fantasy. And I said,
Yeah.
Bev, don't buy these books. You're not going to read them.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you want to get, maybe you should give them as gifts to somebody at work who likes to read fantasy, then that's fine. But yeah, I don't know. I think those are, if you worry about whether or not people are going to like it, you're putting yourself in handcuffs, and it's pretty hard to type in handcuffs. So
yeah, pretty hard,
especially if they're behind your back. Don't put yourself in handcuffs by worrying about whether or not anybody's going to like it. Just do it for yourself. Do it for the satisfaction of doing it and for the joy of the journey, and and things will come.
Yeah, they will come. Adam, I know you developed your love of writing because of Mr. Foss. Looking back now, with all that you've learned and all that you've accomplished, what advice would you give your younger self to get to your future self?
Well, I would advise myself not to be intimidated, but I don't think I was. I might say, I don't know if I'm a better writer or a worse writer than Foss was. But it doesn't really matter. I'm a different writer. I'm a different person. I have different experiences. I have a different sense of humor. I have a different sense of whatever. So I think maybe that was something that I understood. Maybe this is more advice to other people, is you are your own person. And if a writer has to develop their voice, but if you can develop your voice, it's going to be different from other people's, not better or worse. And don't think better or worse, think different. If you can think, I'm going to find my voice and it's going to be different from Rich Foss. It's going to be different from Adam Fleming, and it's going to be different from Stephen King and Barbara Kingsolver. Then you're bringing value to the world because you're different. I don't know. I always encourage
people to find their own voice. So that, to me, is perfect advice to give anyone. Adam, with that said, now that I know you have found your voice, how would you say what you do helps you live your best life now?
Life can be a grind, and when I get in the zone where I'm writing something, I'm in the flow of my pure creativity, and it's like I'm not working. It's a joy. And living my best life now is all about spending as much of my day as possible. I still have to balance the checkbook, but spending as much of my day as possible doing things that bring me joy. So whenever possible, I try to get into doing something like that. And it kind of gives me that sense that I'm doing what I was made to do.
Well, thank you for that, Adam. And as always, I love having you here on Talk to Me. If you'll stand by for a minute while we do one of my favorite parts of the show, which is Thank a Veteran. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it won't cost you a dime, but it will cost you some time. All you have to do is go to www.nevcc.org/projects. Pick one of the 12 writing prompts, one for every month of the year, and write a word, a sentence, a paragraph, and tell a veteran thank you. If you'll take the time to do that, Lisa DeShrum, the executive director of the New England Veterans Chamber of Commerce, and her staff at the end of the year will compile all those wonderful notes, paragraphs, sentences together in a beautifully illustrated book. And they will place it in a basket full of goodies, and you will officially become a member of the Basket Brigade. That basket will be delivered to some very lucky veterans on January 1st, 2022, as a way of saying thank you for your service. So if you've ever wanted to thank a veteran, go to www.nevcc.org/projects and let a veteran know they matter. Adam, do you have any last words you'd like to pass to any of the aspiring
Well,
authors out there that one day want to write the way you do and maybe write 25 books of their own?
I'll try to keep this really quick. My dad, about 6 years ago, started a gratitude journal, 10 things a day that he puts down that he's thankful for. And after about 5 years of this, he said, I've written 20,000 gratitudes.
Wow.
And I saw a change in him between the age of 67 and 72. You're never too old to change. You're never too old to stop writing thanks. And what a great way really to start being a writer. So all that to say, this whole project that you're talking about, it's a great way to start as a writer because you're starting with gratitude. And you just can't go wrong with that. So thank a veteran, like Brenda said, and what a great way to start your writing career because you're going to be in that book.
That's right. Hadn't thought about that. Way to go, Adam. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been another great day here on Talk to Me. I am always excited to talk to Adam Fleming because he sees things other people often miss as well. And he has been very eye-opening for me personally. So Adam, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for all that you've sown into my life. And I thank you that you inspire my creativity and my writing. So thank you for joining me today, Adam.
It's been a pleasure, Brenda. Thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you. And for the rest of you, remember, the choices you make today will be the reality you live tomorrow. Choose wisely. Be blessed.